is where we begin today. We begin this hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Joining me at the table, host of the Independent Americans podcast, founder and CEO of Independent Veterans of America, Paul Rieckhoff's here. Also joining us, staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to The Atlantic daily newsletter, Tom Nichols is here. He was a professor of national security affairs for 25 years at the U.S. Naval War College. And rounding out our group, host of the Bulwark podcast, Msnbc political analyst Tim Miller's back. Paul Rieckhoff, let's deal with these issues one at a time. And I know it's been reported that the military struck this boat from Venezuela. I heard your analysis yesterday. Just take me inside what this means the military is being asked to do, and whether if they have questions about how solid the intelligence is. How do we know it isn't a family from, I don't know, one of these countries on a speedboat? What exists now within the military in terms of intelligence and legal to make sure that that is legal and that they get it right?
I think it starts with understanding that this has always been the plan. Right? This has always been the plan to seize the levers of power and start with the military. And what you've got now is Trump crossing every single barrier that has been in place for hundreds of years. And it's unprecedented, it's unacceptable, and it's deeply dangerous, whether it's overseas or it's domestic, because you have no clear mission, whether it's Venezuela or the National Guard. You have no clear end state. You have no even budgeting for these sorts of things. But most importantly, you don't have the American people behind it. And anytime you commit the troops before you commit the American public, you put them in a very dangerous situation. So just to use Venezuela as an example, they're talking a lot about the drug smugglers, they're talking about the 11 that were killed, but they're not talking about the American troops that were put at risk. And the commander-in-chief has an obligation to explain to the American people, to Congress, and to the public why he's putting American troops at risk, whether it's on the streets of Chicago, for example, or overseas in Venezuela. And he's not doing any of that. There's no accountability, there's no responsibility, there's no transparency, and everything about it is bad. And I think it's the most important story in the country and potentially the most important story in the world, because this is the same thing that happened with the Iran strikes. It's the same thing that's happening in Venezuela. It's happening over and over again overseas and now in more and more cities in America.
Well, let me just follow up. I mean, with the Iran strike, when he went to the country to ostensibly explain, he said that Iran's nuclear capabilities were obliterated. And when the actual intelligence from the military didn't bear that out, he fired the people in charge of military intelligence. So what confidence do the men and women of the military have that they're being asked to do things that are based on actual factual threats?
Less and less by the day, because it's so many different things with so many different rationales. But the consistent theme is a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. Congress is just getting steamrolled here. But he's also attacking something that's very important. They're attacking the truth. They're attacking the understanding of what happens on our city streets, what happens in Venezuela, what happens in Iran, and even boiling it down to the National Guardsmen on the Mall in Washington, D.C., the morale is going down because you're asking infantry soldiers to pick up garbage on the Mall. This is not what they were designed to do, and it's an abuse of power. It's an abuse of the responsibility of the commander-in-chief, and fundamentally, it's an abuse of our troops. This is not what they signed up for. Young men and women didn't sign up to join the Army to police garbage on the Mall or be sent in any other number of missions. So it's a break of the most sacred compact he has as commander-in-chief, and that's why I say this was the most dangerous course of action with Trump. And remember, it can go further. He has nukes. So what if he wants to, for example, do a nuke strike and doesn't think he has to provide transparency or reasoning or accountability? He just keeps going up on the ratcheting, and the danger keeps getting higher. It's more on-brand, fake tough guy bullshit. And it is central to him because it's about being tough. It's about being strong. And it's about optics, right? This is what people want from him in his base. And he likes that. He likes to feel tough and strong. But it, again, undermines our national security and it hurts our troops. Because how can our troops be trusted as peacekeepers overseas if, for example, they're standing with NATO, if now we're called the Department of War? And we haven't even talked in this entire segment about the news today from the New York Times that there was a 2019 operation by Navy SEALs in North Korea. He also operated in North Korea. That he approved in North Korea without congressional approval, without transparency. There's not much talk about it today, right? And so if we're going to call it the Department of War, let's face the fact that we haven't had a formal declaration of war since it was renamed after World War II. We haven't had a formal declaration of war in a generation. So if he wants to call it the Department of War, let's go back to Congress and get formal declarations of war every time you want to send troops to Venezuela or Iran or North Korea.
You know he won't, though.
I know, but we should demand it.
Is there a legal mechanism to slow this down, or is he running on open highway here?
I think there may be a legal mechanism because he seems to be violating the Constitution and the use of our military. But the question is, can anybody stop him? And so far, the Democrats haven't, and the Republicans won't. So I continue to go back to, conscientious American people who need to stand up and understand national security is the most central piece because the stakes are higher here than everything else. And this is not a distraction from other things. This is the thing.
This is the thing.
This is the thing.
Yeah, you and Tim Miller both made that point.